All right, guys, welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial. Darn it, got it the wrong way round immediately. Oh, you see, I need to go back to school, and we are just about to enter the School of Hard Knocks. It's time for the academy teams to show what they're made of. My name is Canapit, joined by Mars the Swan today. Swanee, it's pretty early in the morning here in the UK to be starting a cast. How you feeling?
I mean, you can just tell from the light going on. I've got nightlight lights actually brightening me up and illuminating me, but I won't need illuminating around these places because the LJL Academy is here, ladies and gentlemen, and it's on some historic landmark that this flag is being set right here, right now.
Yeah, from what I understand, this is going to be the first iteration of the Academy League. There has been no Academy League
Mm,
before this, but there have been other things of its ilk. So we go back in time, we have the Challenger Series running from
yeah.
2014 to 2018, and then that kind of packed in. Then it was Scouting Grounds from then on out, where a lot of familiar faces were in those Scouting Grounds from 2019 to 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Challenger Series, it was the way to be promoted or demoted when the LJL actually had that system in place, and that's why it worked so well for the last few years. However, in 2020, when the system changed, and funnily enough, also when we started covering the region, the LJLOU, the system changed, and an academy kind of system didn't quite make sense at that point in time. So that's why Scouting Grounds started, and Scouting Grounds was something that was happening globally more actively because everywhere was actually becoming a major regional minor region and getting all of that funding that came along with franchising. Scouting grounds has been a thing. I mean, I think the breakout star, honestly, at the moment would be Megumin and Kinatu. I think they're probably the two big names as they're currently leading the charge when it comes to rookies in the LJL, and they were in Scouting Grounds only 8, 9 months ago, and they're
Hmm.
one of them's in the finals, one of them's in the semi-finals. One of them beat Eddie. Like, these players have pedigree.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And there's tons of players who are now going to be playing, who've been in the Scouting Grounds who are now going to
Mm,
be on these Academy rosters as well. So,
true, very true.
uh, and also, even though, player notice particular creative for Burning Core, who came for a couple of different Scouting Grounds kind of to make it this point. So we've got a lot of players at different points in their careers trying to grab their share of the spotlight.
Yeah, well, there are players who have never played before. I mean, looking at towards our first matchup, we've got 4, 5 players who have never played any form of professional league before. Whereas there's some players here who are rather seasoned veterans. Actually, if you look towards like V3's roster, who has got Yu-Gi-Oh and Unica. Unica was literally playing in the LJL playoffs that just happened for V3 Esports, and now he's in their academy lineup. I mean, you can't say more experience compared to someone who has never played a professional game of League of Legends before.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. I mean, this is the place where we see the heroes of tomorrow emerging. So we're going to be that's kind of an overview of what we're going to be doing across these coming days. So today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday will all be 6 games from the academy. We'll then take a small break before coming back for those last 4 games to finish everything out. Before on the 8th of September, we'll be hitting the tournament round. So everybody goes to the playoffs. So that's why it's best of one all the way through. And then we've got on the 9th of the 9th, the grand finals themselves, best of 5 action. That's where we get the real champion crown.
Oh yeah, for sure. We might even try and do a bunch of production stuff, make it really flashy. We'll have to wait and see how we feel about that one. But I mean, actually getting a best of 5s, really excited. Would have loved best of 3s throughout the rest of it, the rest of the tournament bracket. But hey, beggars can't be choosers, best of 1s, and we've got a lot of games to cover in a very short amount of time, kind of it.
Yes, so as we mentioned already, Crest Gaming Academy versus Detention FocusMe Academy starting us off. We'll then have Burning Core and Rascal Jester Academy. Then Detention FocusMe and the SoftBank Hawks will return for Game 3 with Burning Core and V3 for Game 4, Rascal Jester and the Hawks again for Game 5. And then Sengoku and Axis with one of the teams actually who are only playing one game in this first day of play, playing against each other.
Yeah, it's interesting how this kind of bracket has worked out because they've gone like, all right, we got a double round robin, and then they just kind of threw it out there, and we're like, which order's going to play? Who knows? So I will be interested in seeing what's going to be happening for this. But we've potentially got the rosters for our first two teams. So let's actually start running down those two teams because I'd be interested to see what's going on here. We've got DFM Academy facing off against CGA.
Alright, so up in the top lane, we start off with Momo, Funahui, Kaito, Chico, and a Primo for CGA Academy. DFM Van City. I'm gonna guess. Do you have a better idea than I do? RE? I'll take this no. Marimo and Fujimoto. So these might be names. These might be names that will echo throughout history that the Elvis could be coming across for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, the player that's very interesting to me, honestly, is probably going to be like Momo in the top lane, because Momo definitely has some pretty big experience, and he's going up against Van, who has a very similar kind of experience. Both of them are young 17-year-olds. They played for youth teams. One of them actually won the high school series in 2020, I believe, for Momo. Van won 2019, along with Shakespeare and Promo, of players of other teams, which you'll come to get to know and love, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of different pedigree going on here, so it's going to be a competitive matchup. And we've got a 16-year-old in the mid lane for DFM, and we know they have a history of mid laners. Think about it. DFM, Siros, Aria? Like, this is in a very short line of players that have had the pleasure of playing for DFM. I think Rhea is going to be an important one to spectate for moving forward.
I mean, I guess this kind of brings up one of our concerns coming into the this Academy League here is that while these aren't of course the same teams you'd be seeing in the main league, presumably they will have access to the same facilities that the main team do. So a Detention FocusMe Academy presumably is going to be very well equipped compared to say a Burning Core Academy perhaps.
Absolutely. I mean, DFM are one of the most storied rosters, storied teams in all of Japanese video game history, really. So when you look at it, go, absolutely, yeah, they will have the pedigree. They will have the ability to push more at these players. And this is why I imagine we're probably going to see potentially DFM even dip. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a team that loses the first few weeks, that actually doesn't look particularly hot for the first, I guess maybe a few weeks, a bit of an exaggeration because it's only 10 days. So, few days, but at least I would be imagining like there's a lot of players that are going to keep improving time over time over time. There are players here that we could find very limited information on. There are players we could find so much info. I do agree with you though, DFM should have the ability, but a lot of these teams are very good at training their rosters.
Well, yeah, I mean, as I said, there's still a lot of mystery here, and with these games coming up, we're paving that road for these players. These are going to be the first ones coming in. What a difference it's going to make to somebody's career when you can say, oh, these first three games, yeah, they got a pentakill, they popped off, their KDA was crazy. They're the player that's getting talked about here. You set the tone for the scouting grounds from the very beginning. I think that's why it's such a privilege to be here for the very first games.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is also though I've seen literally the opposite thing happen. Kinatu and his team, when they were playing in scouting grounds, they actually had a pretty rocky start. They looked pretty suspicious, and I was like, oh god, maybe these guys aren't going to be too good. Come the last few days, and then when they hit the playoff area, they absolutely soared and went like on a 6-0 win streak, I believe, or a 5-1 streak at the end. You need to know the importance of the beginning of how this team started to know the importance end as well. So it's kind of, you can't just watch the ending and get the full story of these teams. Watch all of it, ladies and gentlemen, is what I'm saying. Or pick a team and watch all those games. I don't mind.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, if we're talking about Academy, we're absolutely talking about teams that are learning and developing as much as, we all are in every context. This is what the teams are specifically here for. So you're right. We could see a team that starts off very weak, using this time really well to get stronger. We could see a team that starts off very strong, fall apart because they get overconfident. They're not used to success, on a relatively big stage like we're seeing here. It's going to be fascinating to try and track the individual players and see how they react to this new context.
And I think a really important thing to outline is that every team makes playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. Like every single team will make playoffs. The difference is in the seeding in which they make that playoff. But I believe something's about to be happening for us, Counterfeit.
Yes, I believe our first game is ready. So Crest Gaming Academy versus Detention FocusMe Academy, starting us off here. Let's hop across there and see what they've got for us.
Well, I must just say, first and foremost, good job, LJL Academy, at the overlay. This is clean in my eyes. This is so clean. But we've got Thresh, Lulu, and Syndra already off the board.
Okay, so a lot of safety for Crest being stripped away from DFM. You know, that's not necessarily got the most information about the players as of yet. You have to imagine that for the Academy teams themselves, they'll have been using the full resources of their respective teams to get that bit of extra information and make sure they don't step into the first game against something they can't handle.
Yeah, there's a lot of mid lane bans thrown from DFM side, so while I think it's interesting that Rhea is probably not being given the most amount of tools, they're more of a Kayn player, a Sylas and a Kali and a LeBlanc and everything, so they took the LeBlanc away, but we know what Kaito plays, so if we don't see a Zoe ban, ooh, that's interesting, because remember, we actually saw Kaito in the LJL 2021 summer playoffs, playing for CGA because they had to move some of their players around. He played 3 games of Zoe, and that's been left up, but they're going for a first pick, Lee Sin. They just want pure power. Does leave a lot of high-priority junglers still open. Xin Zhao is still around.
Yeah, I mean, we are on 11.16, so it makes a lot of sense. You know, Lee Sin up there, nearly picked and banned in every game, but DFM had to know this was coming, so they will lock themselves down the job in the 4th straight away.
Okay, that's kind of surprising. J4 just insta-locked in for Netsui, and now they're looking towards actually picking up the Ezreal and then actually just switching over. So we're going to get a poke con probably coming out from DFM here, but that's a lot of early aggression. Jarvan needs to win before 30 minutes or he falls off like a cliff.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how this one works here. Looks like Crest Gaming Academy, you know, while they're kind of the middle of the road team in the main season here, they might be looking to try and make a big impact early on by getting the win over DFM. As they lock down the Kaiser with the Aurelia, that's a lot of mobility on the team of Crest already.
For sure, absolutely. It's a huge amount of mobility. I mean, you can't really say much more than the ability to just Lee Sin jump and go over. Now we've got to then go into an Aurelia, go around, and I wasn't going to mention anything, but the jungler for DFM, he is a Kayn one trick. He actually does stream regularly. It's his main champion. It's his Twitter icon. You can't get more invested into a champion than that. So if you didn't want to ban him in the first rotation, you want to give him a try, you want to get rid of the Viego, that's where we're going from. I mentioned Kaito Zoe, DFM are taking off in the second rotation. It's not awful, but I would have probably preferred it going a little bit earlier. But that's where we're saying, we got Kayn here. That means this is also lane Jarvan.
I am into
support.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how this one works then. So DFM, yeah, we kind of maybe would have expected them to hold off a little bit later to try and make that more of a surprise, as Crest continue to focus the bottom lane with their bans. So another protective support joining the Thresh and the Lulu being taken away. Presumably Crest have got some pretty big plans down there.
It's going to be important because we are seeing a huge amount of priority on the supports at this moment in time. There have been 4 bans at the moment, 5 bans if you want to technically select that Trundle as well, and so the pools are going to be pushed pretty far, meaning we might just start seeing some enchanters as opposed to anything else. This is why, oh god, that like set technically could go support, could be more of a top laner, but I mean, what do you play against a lane Jarvan if you're the side of Crest Gaming Act here? Do you just go for pure power, or would you actually go in some other direction?
Well, I mean, you mentioned coming into this one for Crest Gaming, of DFM, they have 2 very good top laners up against each other. So I'd certainly love to see someone who can get up and, you know, fit the brawl in. It's always risky, though, when you don't know exactly how you measure up against the other team, to try and make that determination. It looks for DFM. They're going to hold that one last card, of course, available to them as they lock down some heavy crowd control, that Northless, some beef added to DFM's lineup.
Now I'm just on the assumption that this Jarvan is in top lane now, and we're just giving recounter pick for the mid lane. And this is where Crest are going to have to reveal all their tricks. Where is this Aurelia going? Is it going to be mid? Is it going to be top? Is this Lee Sin actually going mid or top or jungle? I imagine we probably are seeing Lee Sin jungle because it is one of the more played champs for Funoi when he did play in Scouting Grounds. That's going to be a Silas, and I have to imagine that is also... Wait, Kaito and Momo probably both play it. It's flexing, boys. That's what they're doing. They're flexing around. They flex more than what CJ's main roster does. I'm just putting it out there.
Hey,
it's all memes here.
I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? You've got the futures of all of these players being laid out for us here. And potentially, as much as a lot of these players who are playing in in this Academy League, they are already substitutes for the main team. This can definitely make a difference to them in how often they're going to get called up to the big leagues to be put in that spotlight, if they can start grabbing that spotlight for themselves here and now.
Sure. I mean, this is a statement coming out more from DFM more than anything else, playing lane Jarvan 4. I don't know in high elo play how much that's even a thing, and now I'm like, well, DFM, they got their main roster, but then they're now getting their rosters preferred picks. I'm very confused what's going on here. A Kane? Which direction of Kane are we gonna see? Academy, ladies and gentlemen, we only get it here.
Well, I mean, we got for Crest Gaming, we got Natsuki. For DFM, we've got Gizmo as well on the side. So it may also be an opportunity for these coaches to be trying out some stuff that they've had burning a hole in their pocket for a while. But yeah, I like what we're seeing here for our opening game. Certainly, we came into this expecting DFM with the Detention FocusMe resources to have a very strong start, and it feels like we've got a lot of explosive potential there for both teams to really get stuck in very quickly.
Oh, if we don't see fighting in the first 10 minutes, like, I want to see bloodbath kind of Mad Lions fanatic kind of best of 5 from yesterday kind of fighting. I want it to be bloody. I want them to fight over everything. I want it to be just tearing my hair out. That's what I want from these two teams.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of aggression on both these two teams, and while they do have scaling in that Kai'Sa, in that Silas, in the Ezreal, and in the Akali, I do think it's CGA favored if the game goes slightly longer, though it really does depend on this Jarvan 4. I'm still so perplexed because Jarvan has one of the highest win rates before 30 minutes. The moment you get to 30 minutes, his win rate drops like off the top of a cliff in solo queue, and a lot of that transitions into high elo play as well. So we'll have to see.
Well, if we're talking about just Van and Momo together, I'm very curious to see how that one goes, because
Cataclysm on Cataclysm.
Yeah, there are some ultimates you can kind of use to counter that ultimate. The Cataclysm will just lock you further in the Cataclysm. So, if we're looking for a death match up in the top lane, 2 Cataclysms, effectively 2 Hextech ultimatums, forcing these 2 fighters to duke it out and determine who is the very best. Why, that's a treat in the making.
It really is going to be a treat, regardless on what actually happens. But we'll have to see how the laning, how this all does play out. I mean, Counterfeit, who are you favoring just with how these two lineups have got to their compositions?
I think logic and reason would send me towards the DFM side, because they're going to be as best prepared as they can be. But I'm intrigued by what we've got here from Crest Gaming Academy. I'd love to see what they can do with their lineup here. It feels like there's a lot of potential there to really go crazy. So I'm inching ever so slightly. My 51% is on their side, just because I guess I'm most interested to see what they can do with the comp. I don't know if they'll necessarily win with it straight off, but I'd like to see them make a very solid try in our first game.
Absolutely. And what I love about all of this, right, is when we're doing all of this, we get to slowly start seeing who the really good players are and who the more suspect players are, or the ones that need to develop their talent far more so than anybody else. I don't know really anyone that's coming into this that is like a big hot commodity, really realistically. I know a few of these talents are like people are like, "Oh, I'm very interested to see how they do," because it's a really good way of going, "Hey, here's a bunch of games, play them in competitive play. If you win a lot, you're probably okay. If you lose, probably need to talk about it." And we've seen a lot of tournaments. I mean, kind of, you and I have both covered amateur tournaments before. You start to slowly pick up players that are like, that's probably someone to watch for the near future. And then they go off and keep winning. It's like, crazy. It's like an eye test is normally an okay thing.
For sure. I mean, as I said, and I'm sure we'll say it many, many times over here. While for the established players, they've kind of got a lot of you know, their impression upon the world already etched out. And so, a further game for them, it's like, okay, if it's a good game or a bad game, you kind of shrug your shoulders a little bit and say, unless it's really out of the ordinary, it's not something to really care about. But for all of the players we've got coming up here, every single game is going to be a significant part of what we know about them as a player. So if that's good or bad, it's all going to be a big difference. But let's waste no more time because we've got our very first game available for you. Let's start making some legacies here together, Master.
Yeah, and starting a legacy DFM is with a level 1 strategy already in the top side. Momo, though, was a bit more coy and didn't want to go face-checking a bush that he wasn't fully aware of. So we'll just back off, we'll just reset, it's fine, we don't have to worry about any of this. And Crest Gaming Act, get ready for their positions. It looks like Lee Sin is going to go and start red side, and we're going to get a red versus, well, it's going to be a bot side clear going up to top side, so probably level 3 dives pretty early on.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to give DFM some credit there. It's always worth a try, isn't it, to go for that?
All the Conqueror.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is DFM, Master. This is DFM sending a message. They're planning to conquer here in the LJL Academy, and what better way to do that than to declare that message with your masteries?
It feels like that way. I mean, I was trying to figure out the direction in which we would see this Jarvan 4, and while I was very quickly doing it, I think this is pretty much all in. So we'll get a Gore Drinker and that kind of play. I'm a little surprised we didn't see something like a Renekton or a Camille come out from either of these two players, considering that they both fight over Camille. It's one of their most played champions, so this was definitely some unorthodox picks from both these players, but we'll have to see how it all pans out in this early mid game. Currently, Momo definitely seems to be taking a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, we're seeing some pretty heavy brawling. Crest Gaming, so look like they're coming out ever so slightly ahead down in this bottom lane 2v2 and in the top as well. The mid has been more or less quiet for the time being. We'll see how this Akali ends up doing into Relia. Certainly we can see Kaito's getting pretty aggressive early on, but Reap is able to hide in the smoke. Ban getting the worst of these trades. Both of these top laners do have TP though.
They absolutely do, but I love that what we saw from I wanted blood and I got gate. I'm getting it. They're fighting over everything. I love it. What I loved about what we saw from Momo there is he actually cancelled the little pullback, the flag and drag from Van, meaning that he couldn't actually knock up Momo himself. Basically, he cancelled the knockup that was going to happen for Momo, which was just a nice little thing to see there because he identified the moment the flag was coming down. He just cancelled it. He's like, hey, you're going to take your punishment. I'm going to push you in. Probably needs Lee Sin to now come and benefit him to actually crash that wave in topside. From the looks of things, it looks like Kane has just done a full clear and now looking to see if he can get bot Scuttle Crabbers. Potentially Lee Sin is going to take this top one.
Yeah, City has been doing some pretty good work on the farming front. They will run across the bottom lane of Crest Gaming Academy, who look like they're here to make sure this Rift Scuttler goes in their favor. It looks actually... Okay, yes, we do actually have Finui coming down to pick that one up. So far, not seeing the ganks we maybe expected to otherwise see. The Scuttle has been taken on the top side as well, so that should even out the farm, but not if Netsui is able to steal some farm for the jungle, but there isn't any there! Oh my gosh, the cupboard is bare, and DFM's jungler will have to walk away with nothing.
Yeah, and what's even sadder for him is he knew the side that the Lee Sin for Crest Gaming actually went, ooh, they missed it.
Oh my gosh! Netsuri is there to try and make the trade back on that first blood, but Momo able to shrug it off, and the clash of the Titans in the top lane comes to a very abrupt conclusion. It looks like Momo's up for a fight with Netsuri as well, almost takes them out. It's only, I think, the lack of flashes down the bottom side. Crest Gaming Academy are going to make another play of their own. Fujimoto gets blown to pieces. Crest are on fire. It's pre-5 minutes, first blood, and a second as well.
Oh, I'm so happy I wanted blood and I got given it in the first 5 minutes. I didn't even have to wait 10 minutes. Momo, you almost just got your double kill. That was so clean on your enemy laner of Van, and then Natsui. That didn't look sweet at all for you. It actually looked rather sour. This is your main, this is your Kane, and what happened? But we've got to go back to this bot lane play, because that's one, where the replay is, and two, where this true gank and this Lee Sin get their first successful gank pre-6. Like, this is exactly what Crest Gaming want to do. They want to up the tempo. If their top laner's winning, they also made a bot lane play at the same time, and this was just so well done. 1, 2, 3. After that, it didn't matter. After, I was hopeful that they were going to be able to blow the flash there. They won. It was just the Ezreal jump. So, Arcane Flick. No, what's it called? Arcane. No.
Oh. See, now that you can't remember, I immediately can't remember it as well. If you'd asked me before, I refuse to take advice from our producer. It's a mystery. Everyone watching, what that ability is called, I refuse to be educated. But certainly, Crest Gaming Academy, they are educating us on how to play the early game. Momo is so impressive. The bottom lane really impressive as well. We're just waiting to see, I suppose, what Kaito's got for us in the mid lane to complete the Crest Gaming Academy impressive run through the early game.
Where else will they go? Where will Crest Gaming Academy strike next is the question. Well, now Kaito has got 6. Momo will be stealing an ultimate, and I'm interested, because you did raise this point earlier. What ultimates are you going to steal? Because you don't really want to steal Van's ultimate. It's Cataclysm. Early game, at least when you're in the laning phase, you don't want to Cataclysm the Cataclysm guy. So potentially something like the Silas ult would be a slightly more alluring for him. Obviously, always getting a Nautilus ult with a Kane always getting a Nautilus ult on a Silas is always great, because then you get the AP knock-up, and it's just extra bonus damage on top of it, which you just don't normally get.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've got a chance to go for a little bit of a Silas workshop here. So I guess what we do have in terms of stealable ultimates, you mentioned, Nautilus, that long-range knock-up as well. We've got the dashes from Rhea in the mid lane. I guess, as much as that 1v1 Cataclysm, competition doesn't seem particularly fruitful necessarily, I suppose at this point, with Momo being as ahead as they are of the opposing laner, that Cataclysm is maybe looking a little bit more appealing now that you actually want to take that 1v1 fight.
Oh, for sure. The issue is, for when you do the Cataclysm for Momo, you have to be the one doing the second Cataclysm. You can't be the first one, though. Ooh, as Kane just floating around on enemy lines.
Yeah, so it's unspotted, so Chico's going to be a little alarmed, but not actually caught out, ultimately, as DFM try and find something for themselves. No early Drake's been taken. We're only a few seconds away from the first Herald coming up, so DFM, they could find their way back in by objective focus.
Yeah, and it looks like the side of Crest Gaming are going to be actually pushing up to this top side Herald, so potentially there is going to be a trade of this Dragon in the bot side over for this top side Herald, and which actually would really help unlock either Momo or Kaito in the designated lanes, and then allow them to actually roam around and help this bot side, who hasn't actually got a lead at this moment in time. Like, yes, they got the kill on bot side, but it went on to the Lee Sin. And then if you look at it, they're pretty average. The only person who's really taking a huge lead out of anything is Kaito over Rhea at the moment in this mid lane matchup. And Kaito has quietly got almost a 30 CS lead over his counterpart. Well, 30 CS lead over his counterpart. And that's just like wave after wave after wave. And we're only 8 minutes in.
I guess it makes sense that the place we haven't seen Crest Gaming trying to go for the kill is the mid lane, when the current environment right now for Kaito seems to be very, very beneficial. The Herald's going to be dropped only a minute after it spawns into that mid lane. The first plate has not gone down as of yet, so that will be a chunk of change, but nothing decisive for Crest Gaming Academy.
No, it seems more like, if anything else, Crest Gaming Act wanted to just try and get that plating over that you mentioned. They hadn't got one down, so it was like, well, let's try and get a few down over. Let's get the gold when we know we can guarantee that gold. what this also signalizes, well, at least to me, is that there is no clear objective that Crest Gaming Act know they want to play through. They know they want to go for a top lane play. They know they want to go for a mid lane play. They haven't decisively got that down. So with that said, they're going to try and work around something else. I am interested. Did DFM not actually take the dragon? Is that actually right?
The
Infernal
they
Dragon
cancelled
Slide?
off of it. Their two ended up falling back. So it was confusing because it seemed like they had the resources down to get it. And City back into the jungle again, looking to try and steal away Momo's farm. This time the trespass has been stolen, so Netsuti will go across the wall, but they'll carry with themselves a passenger of Momo, who's getting reinforcements. There's the second trespass, though. Gets the job done. Kills are traded. Bree comes from the mid lane to try and follow up, but it ultimately ends up being a 1-for-1 top laner for jungler.
Really well collapsed there by the side of DFN. They absolutely knew how to play around their jungler, even though he was rather far in enemy lines. Kane is pretty good at being slippery, sliding all the way through, though we did see the Cataclysm have to get used there. So it was 2 ultimates for 1 ultimate. They did trade 1-for-1. Depending on when those abilities are going to be coming up. A flash was also blown by Kane, so it is going to be important to probably highlight that over the next few minutes to see how potential escapes or how they're even going to play over the next few minutes or so, because they don't have the ability to get dip, duck, and dive away as much. And he did that ultimate actually really well for the Silas, but just couldn't get it. And then when the second ultimate came out, was stuck, though Kaito was here, so basically any form of collapse that DFM did want to do was going to be disallowed, because there's no way you're beating Aurelia at this moment in time.
So I guess let's look at where we are from that. So for Crest Gaming Act Academy, which is why I might just call them Crest, ultimately, because it's too long of a name by half. So 2 of their 3 kills are on Affinity on the Lee Sin. As you mentioned, those kills not necessarily ideally placed for where they need to be. Whereas on the other side, only that single kill, it's on the City, the other jungler as well. So still to see the kills come through for the mid laners, even though both of them are very powerful. We have got a completed item, the Blade of the Ruined King for Kaito's Aurelia. So there should be a lot of strength being exerted from Crest from that mid lane.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, having early gold on Lee Sin isn't always the greatest thing in the world, but he's got a very early gore drinker at this moment in time. So there is going to be pressure that they're going to be able to put. And Momo just chilling. Hey, they've got this top side warded, and they knew when they saw Netsui actually wander up to that top side that they could get this dragon for free. And Crest Gaming Act are probably laughing their way all the way home at the moment, because they're like, wait, we got both neutral objectives with 2k gold up at the moment. Mid lane is just like a 30 CS gap. Hey, this looks great, guys. Let's just keep playing like this and see if we can get a pick or 2.
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing when it's working out so freaking well. I think it all started from those first 2 scuttlers, and then just every objective from then on out. The blue buff now being aggressed on, so you can see how far DFM being pushed back into their own territories. They lose control of not just the Herald, not just the Drake, but their own territory buffs. Crest Gaming, they seem like they've got a plan coming into this first game. They want to make that early impression here in the LJL Academy, and they're doing a very good job of doing that, exactly that.
Yeah, whoever's making the calls at this moment in time is decisive. They're like, we're going here, we're going there. I don't know if it's Lee Sin, I don't know if it's anybody else at the moment in time, but they know exactly what they want to do. And Kaito, well, I mean, he's just AFK farming in this mid lane, and it just keeps keeping it at 30 CS, which is just so much gold that he has over his counterpart of Ree, and you just don't normally get this. At the moment, though, I do have to give credit. Crest Gaming Act, you've got their bot lane and mid laner, 10 CS per minute. The opposite side, kind of lacking with that, though it doesn't excuse their counterparts of Momo, who has also been having a pretty bloody time over in this top side, is a little bit further down on CS than you'd like to see.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least for DFM, they're actually able to get back in and grab away a blue buff from enemy territory themselves. So
they traded.
Yes, I mean, I feel that's a big step forward from where DFM were before, which is just having stuff taken from them. At least they're able to get something back. You mentioned Momo, started to, after getting the, multiple pieces of attention up to the top side, has started to drop off a little bit. Yes, we've currently got the 2 mythic items. Oh, no, sorry, 3 mythic items now in the game for Crest Gaming, though Momo has not got one of them. So Crest Gaming have got a big spike comparatively.
Yeah, and Blade of the Ruined King isn't one of those mythic items, so we're still waiting to see the direction that we will get here. At the moment in time, though, it does look like a lot of attention on this red buff.
Yeah, we can see a nicely placed red ward. I guess nobody calls it red ward, apart from me. Blah. It will allow for DFM to see what Crest Gaming up to, but a big part of that is maintaining objective control, so they're all over the Herald again. True Shot Barrage, a little bit early there, as the ward coverage is being shut down by Crest. Looks like DFM, they stole a blue buff from this territory before. It looks like DFM might be willing to go for another play.
At the moment, it's very difficult for the side of Crest Gaming to fully commit because their Kai'Sa was all the way into that bot side, and the Ezreal was unknown on the map. They didn't know where they could go for it, so they had to actually just pull off of it because, hey, if Ezreal's way closer than we think he is, he just threw that True Shot Barrage. He's not on vision at the moment. We have to back off. Let's get Kai'Sa back up here. But now look at this. DFM are like, okay, now Ezreal's going to reset. Netsui's resetting. They're not remotely interested in fighting over this Rift Herald. They just basically pulled more resources from Crest Gaming Act to come up there and rotate back around. Goldrink are now in for this Kane, so this minor spike that you mentioned earlier for Crest Gaming Act has actually fallen off already for them. They're already losing some of this early ground that they definitely had over the side of DFM. Things are going to be a little bit more parity as now these item spikes kind of start equaling out.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the Gore Drinker now completed for Netsui's Kane, so yeah, DFM are starting to get back in. They're starting to match, even though they do remain behind on gold. Those first item completions are oh so important. We have got the attempts being made in the mid lane as both junglers and both mid laners brawl. Nice use of the ult there from the Aurelia, but it's always going to be very hard to lock down. The Akali finishing off the job there. Netsui doesn't get a chance to drop down the Gold Drinker before they get blown up.
That was clean from the side of Crest Gaming Out. We saw the Lee Sin kick into then just going, hey, I'm just going to dash as Aurelia, Q onto them, get this, and with that, they also secure the first turret. That's going to be a huge chunk of change that has been thrown into Kaito. Potentially, that was the first Rift Herald, if you remember all that time ago. He got an extra plating. It'd been sitting at 2 turret plates for ages. That plating fell off. Got that Rift Herald. So much gold has been thrown in through this mid-jungle duo into the side of Kaito's pockets, and just look at that. He's still kept that 30 CS lead he's had from the first few minutes of this game. He has kept that going. Not only that, but he is building towards that Trinity 4. No, he's not building towards a Trinity 4. He's just building to build more damage and more abilities. But let's run over how this went down. Immediately, it started with actually Kaito kicking this off. Huge Aurelia ultimate coming out, and then the side of DFM having to try and find a good spot to re-engage. The problem is they're doing this at opposite timings. And then they've pulled the trigger and realized that one of them was already dead, and that was not an option anymore.
I guess that's the thing, isn't it? You're right. That's some of the invisible power being put in there for Crest Gaming, is that while both mid laners came into that last encounter with 0 kills and 0 assists, Kaito had the benefit of both Rift Heralds, so the plating and the first tower gold as well, to really push their power level. I think for the time being, Reed's Akali really can't compete at all.
No, not at all. They still haven't got an item spike. This Akali is still pretty much not going to be a big factor, but huge engage.
Yeah, the fight for the Drake, it's on as Kaito locks down that first kill. Netsui is dropping as well. Crest is so strong right now as Momo gets another kill for DFM. This could not be a bigger disaster. Only Van able to crawl away from the wreckage. Chico did get taken out on the CGA side of things, but it's still a massive victory. A second Drake, and now the top 3 members of CGA all with kills in the multiples.
I mean, it was Chico time. Yes, producer. Yes. Only UK people will get that one. But anyway, I mean, this looks pretty doomed now if you're the side of DFM. That was the first big team fight, and it felt like it was over in the first few seconds. Primo, the support player playing this Rel, got like a 3 to 4 man engage on this. I'm so looking forward to coming into this replay because there's so much that just happens. Watch this. They're just a lot of gauging, and the moment DFM thinks they get it, oh my god, it's just a 3-man stun combo wombo nation. It's already done. It's already over at that point. Chico does go onto the very back line and does look like they're going to be able to get away. The problem is Ree is able to trade and make the only vindication for them, like trying to make something out of a bad situation. But looks like DFM are going to try and make a bad situation out of a good one. It's a 2v4 in this top side.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have the resources to win a fair fight, then why take a fair fight at all? DFM looks like they're actually going to fall back, though. That promised dive onto the top lane, not going to be possible without the minions there to take the tower aggro's. DFM still maintain possession up on the top side. We are just short of the Baron spawning in. DFM looks like they might be about to try and get the kill onto Lee Sin. Kaito coming in from the side, does manage to make the catch. TP coming in, though. Could be a mistake here from Crest Gaming, and yeah, Kaito is gone. For DFM, they don't have an objective they can take, but they do at least get the kill at the expense of the bottom lane tower.
Whoa. Is it just me, or is the audio getting all weird for me as well? Or for you as well?
You see, I'm so enthusiastic casting, I do it twice. Aha!
Ah, that's how you do it. You're just a master of illusions and hearing yourself of the many things. But Crest Gaming Act, well, minor mistake, and the side of DFM are able to capitalize on it. How much more is it going to get them? While they did get a mild shutdown, they got 150 gold extra into their pockets, and they're probably a little richer and happier with that experience. It doesn't excuse now the 40 CS lead that's happened in this mid lane. Kaito is quietly now almost up to 10.5, almost to 11 CS per minute. So he's just going, yeah, I mean, I can die, but I still have just got way more gold than my opponent. He's already completed 2 items. That Divine Sundra coming in versus the 1 completed item for Ree. I'm very worried for the fighting ability of DFM, as there is a 6k gold, well, 6k gold lead at the moment. It's gonna be an issue, but hey, it's Academy, anything can happen.
For sure. I mean, as much as we criticized Crest for bringing their whole team up to take a Rift Herald, at least they got the objective out of the whole deal,
right?
Whereas in this case for DFM, they bring nearly their whole team to get a kill, and they don't get an objective out of it. In fact, they lose an objective out of the exchange. It feels like we're going to see something dramatically different from DFM, or Crest Gaming are just going to walk all over this game.
So now it comes down to the question of Crest Gaming Act. How are you planning to win this game with such a huge lead at the moment? Because honestly, this is the interesting thing, Counterfeit. We know that in professional play, when you get a lead like this, the game feels over, right? We've cast enough games where you can just look at it and go, yeah, Crest Gaming Act have got all their item spikes. You just look at them, we're like, they all have 2 items, maybe they're or towards their second item. We've got 2 items now in for Chico. We've got the everyone actually has their mythic now for the side of Crest Gaming Act. Over on the other side, their counterparts on DFM haven't even completed all their mythics. If they have completed their mythic, they're pretty far off of most likely completing their second one or their second item. Crest Gaming Act have got all the power at the moment. How are they going to push this advantage? And at this moment in time, we don't know that, because they don't seem to actually have that advantage.
And of course, for any of you guys who are just tuning in, we'll be bringing you 6 games over the course of today. Burning Court and Rascal Jester Academies coming up in our second game once this one is done, but tons of games. I believe every team is going to play over the course of the day. A lot of them are going to be playing twice, but a few of them are just for a single time, including the Sengoku versus Axis, which will end out our first day of coverage. They will be the only games those 2 teams will be playing today.
Yeah, so you got to cover. You got to catch all of them. If you're going to find a team here, you're going to find that one Academy roster. You need to follow them from day number 1. But as we currently sit, this is our first game of LJL Academy, and Momo looks to be trying to set a trap.
It's a pretty good trap. Momo able to face down the entirety of DFM, but the damage is going to be coming back in straight away. The 5v5 fight is good. Who gets the kill? The resets are coming. DFM, they went face to face with Crest Gaming Academy, and the results were perhaps predictable.
Well, I was worried that might happen, and this time, hey, Chico didn't die. That's promo, so it's even better. It's even better. They can go and get this Baron, and quite frankly, that was the question I was asking earlier. I was like, I don't know how they stay in this. Probably not by fighting them was going to be my solution for them, but that should have been clear. They didn't have the items, whereas I was quite clearly pointing out Crest Gaming Act already had the items in place. They had the gold league, they had the item spike, and it went exactly as you'd want. If anyone's going to die, Rel's going to be the one to die. I am going to criticize here, because I'm always going to have a quick factor. CGA, you should have waited 3 more seconds so your Rel could have had the Baron buff.
Ah, that's true.
There's no reason that they didn't have to do that. I know you guys want to get immediately back on the map out, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to send somebody else to just hang around and auto attack to make sure this. Maybe they were worried about Ezreal. That's why they had to smite early to get back for this dragon, but they're already here. And let's be real, DFM don't want to fight Crest Gaming Act if they're already on this dragon.
No, not even with all the vision that DFM have got there. They perhaps have learned the lesson that, again, the fair fight against Crest Gaming Act Academy is not a fight they want to take. So, Drake number 3, massive gold advantage for DFM. We've yet to see any real signs of them trying to take the initiative for themselves. They seem like they must be trying to hunker down for the long term here, but they're losing so much ground by doing so.
Oh, I mean, this is just going to be a bleed out effect now at this moment in time. The side of DFM are going to be getting pushed in at least 1 to 2 lanes at a time. It looks like they're already doing a 1-4, which makes complete sense because Momo is such a machine at the moment, has a huge advantage. They can have Lee Sin play on the side. If either side gets collapsed on, they're like, hey, this is fine. And then otherwise, they can just use the cannon minions, use the siege minions, and try and force pressure around. It's not like if DFM really want to have to fight Crest Gaming Act. And look at this, just get a few hits in. We can play this game for the next minute and a half, because guess what? That's how long our Baron lasts for.
Yeah, and that's going to be Baron coming in on 2 lanes. DFM, they've got to deal with all the chip damage, even if nothing else coming in from Crest. We've, of course, got the Soul to consider coming up a little bit later on, but the gold lead is enormous right now. We're getting close to 10k ahead for Crest as they shove in a massive wave down the bottom lane. Might even be able to take this inhibitor tower, which is already perilously low.
Oh, absolutely. That was just one Baron minion coming along. There's a lot of that. It's just going to go down. DFM, you need to kill the cannon minion, but they only have an Ezreal's wave clear. And Ezreal's not very good at wave clearing when a Rel gets to stand in front of one of your main wave clearing tools of a Q.
That was really nice, actually. Yeah, from Crest, the Primo just made sure that was impossible to get rid of that cannon minion, and they've been rewarded. Crest have now got access to the bottom lane inhibitor. DFM, they know they can't take the even fight, so they'll have to give up the inhibitor as well. They might have to give up a second inhibitor tower in the mid lane at the same time. What a disaster for DFM.
Yeah, and Momo was able to do that all on their own in a 1-4 scenario. I don't know why DFM didn't at least just go, okay, we're surrendering this bot lane. Let's go and get Momo in mid, or at least protect ourselves. They've bled out even more than I was expecting. 2,600 Baron play. What a performance from Crest Gaming Act. Hey, their macro and micro is starting to look pretty solid from the side of Crest Gaming Act, but this is just one game sample size. I'm not going to put all of my eggs into the Crest Gaming Act basket quite at this moment in time.
Well, I mean, it's certainly a basket pretty heavily laden with eggs. As, yeah, I mean, you know, we didn't come into this with the highest expectation of Crest as a team in the main league who are kind of, you know, very much middle of the table, slipping a little bit between the 2 seasons to a slightly worse performance in summer than in spring. This team right now is looking pretty fantastic, and hopefully they'll keep on looking that way throughout the rest of the games.
We're going to have to just wait and see. They will be having another match today at Crest Gaming Act. So, oh no, they're not. This is the only game of today. Oh, so we'll have to see if DFM can run it back versus the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming later today. It's actually going to be the 3rd game of today, so we'll have to wait and see how that one goes down. But CGA, 1 game today. This is a pretty good performance and an opening game for the Academy League. Can't ask for much more.
Yeah, if you're going to have 1 game, at least make it this game. Yeah. This is fantastic stuff. The 10k has almost been reached. I think it was reached for just a second there. In the advantage for Crest, who they've got 2 inhibitors mid and bottom. That means there's only 1 remaining in the top lane. That's exactly where Crest Gaming Act Academy are right now, looking to take down that side lane tower. All the gold from all these towers pouring into Crest's pockets, and I don't know if DFM could even deny this 3rd inhibitor from being taken.
They don't have the wave clear. Look at this. Ree has had to go AFK on this bot side, but even then, he's not even able to actually assist this. And then Momo just pushed in this top side, so now it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Oh god, he's got a good ultimate, and there's going to be a TP playing from Ree.
All right, this is your moment, Ree. You've been invisible all game long. Now it's time to make that a good thing. Round the back of the CGA squad, DFM every other time they've gone face to face. It has gone disastrously, maybe with a flank. No, Ree teleported into the backside of the CGA Academy team and now has recalls. No, they cancelled the recall. They're still there.
I don't think they know what they're doing, mate. I'll be real honest with you. They just had the Cav Kane go and take out the bot lane farm. Now they're going for this top side. They've just lost everything, and they're going to go for a fight when he's not even there.
Come on, Bree! This is your time. This is your place. There's the knockup. DFM, they have to win this fight or the game's over either way around it. They do manage to land hold of some early damage in, but the numbers don't lie. And that means disaster for you, DFM. Crest Gaming Act Academy tear through DFM's defense here. That will be the third inhibitor down. The Super Minions providing the window for Crest Gaming Act Academy to get onto those Nexus towers. Let's finish the job. The ace is complete. Crest Gaming Act Academy, what a spectacular way to start off the LJL Academy.
Take a bow, CGA. That was a very strong game. You won the early game, you transitioned it into the mid game, and the late game was very clean, especially with that Baron play. One Baron to realistically close this game. That's what we want to be seeing from teams like this. We want to see them get one large objective and then push the pressure when they have that advantage. But hey, if maybe you're slightly behind, what do? You use it to get you back into the game. DFM, it felt like they had no chance when they were playing around that third dragon fight because let's be real, Crest Gaming Act was so far ahead already at that point. There was a mid gap we saw from Kaito and Ree. Top lane was a bloodbath, like I suggested it might be. So I enjoyed thoroughly about this game.
Yeah, there was so much to like there. The Crest Gaming Act were able to dominate pretty much across the entire field. I guess the only time we even had any concerns was that maybe Momo had enough pressure that that top lane could be turned around. But ultimately, the big questionable pick of the Jarvan the Fourth did pick up some assists, I guess, because there very much were very fewer kills to go around for DFM. Got to give credit for Natsui on the Kane. At least they did get 5 kills in that game. That's 5 times more than anyone else in that team.
Just by country mile, they definitely look confident. They were at least finding spots, but remember, they were also one of the players that almost died in that 1v1 versus the Silas in the top lane. So I have to wait and see.
All right, guys, so this is only barely scratching the surface here, the LJL Academy. We have got a full day of games here, of course, across 4 more days of the regular season as well after this. So coming up, Burning Core versus Rascal Jester Academy. So this will be their first showing. We've had an incredible game at 1 to start off with today. So hopefully you'll stick around and experience the whole thing for yourself. Maybe, just as Swan said, find your next favorite team in the making. We'll be heading to break. When we return, Burning Core, Rascal Jester. Let's go.